Hello and welcome to the Senior Rehab Project, the podcast for the community of rehab clinicians working to advance care for the older adult. I'm your host, Troy Mead, and this is the Home Health Recharge segment, reinvigorating and recharging home health. In today's episode, we're going to discuss the Celery Test. It seems a lot of the time when a therapist comes to home health, there can be a lot of questions about how they fit into the healthcare continuum, especially if they're not used or don't know much about home health. It might just be my opinion, but this might be why we see a discrepancy of care in home care. Don't get me wrong, there is some laziness, but I refuse to think that the majority of what we see is for this reason. So you can call me optimistic or crazy or delusional, whatever you wish. Anyways, when it comes to treatment and care, then one of the best ways to make sure that you're providing the best care that the patient needs is by using what's been termed the Celery Test. You may not be familiar with this concept, but I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek, who is a popular speaker on leadership. And a lot of his topics you can not only apply to leadership, but you can also apply to your treatment. So you may be familiar with his Start with the Why books and talks. And the Celery Test is a concept that applies to leadership that is part of his Starts with the Why philosophy, but also suggests that you can apply these to care that you provide. So here's the concept. Simon asks, when you are going to the grocery store, and he applies this to business, you're getting all kinds of different opinions on what you should buy. Maybe your wife says, hey, make sure you pick up some Oreo cookies. Maybe your kids say, hey, pick up a bag of candy. Maybe someone else says, pick up some celery. And another person says, pick up some rice milk. So you have all these varying opinions, but you may not know which ones to actually pick up. So the concept is, so when you get into the store, how do you know what you should buy or what you should pick up? And this is where the Celery Test comes in. So what you got to do is you start with, as Simon would say, you start with your why. So what's your purpose? What do you want to get out of this? So if you start at the beginning, say you're on a diet. Okay, so that's your why. So you're going in and you have your why, you're on a diet. So how do you know what to buy from then? You do what you call the Celery Test. Is this what I'm buying, does this connect with my why? Okay, so let's take it back to the Oreo cookies. I'm on a diet. I see the Oreo cookies there. Does that reflect my why? Does that coincide with my why? So probably not, unless you're on the Oreo cookie diet. So you're probably not going to pick up the Oreo cookies. Same thing with the candy. But then when you get to the celery, now the celery is congruent with your why, with your concept, with your diet. Okay, so that's what you're going to pick up. And probably the rice milk as well. So now you have a cart full of celery and rice milk. So you knew what to get just by using your why, your starting principles. So a big thing of this concept as well is now other people can see what you're about. You may sit in the line at the checkout and someone will go, hey, are you on a diet? You're like, yeah. And then you start talking and they understand something about you by what you bought. So he applies this to leadership and business, but you can also apply this to your treatment. So a lot of the big questions you get in home health, so coming in is, what's my goals that you hope to accomplish with home health? So you can really kind of whittle it down to two big principles. So you want to keep the patient out of the hospital and at home so you can treat them, right? That's kind of a no-brainer, something we don't think about much. But you want to kind of do what's best for the patient, probably move them along the healthcare continuum if possible. But in order to do that, you need to make sure that they stay home and they're receiving treatment. Another big goal that you're going to have is meeting the patient's goals. So that's what you're all about. You're trying to make the patient better. You're going to try to meet their goals that they have with therapy so they're more encouraged to do what we want them to do. So if you're going to implement a treatment, you have to compare what your treatment is and if it meets your goals. So does your treatment meet the Celery Test? So if your patient wants to get back in the community and start walking, maybe you're going to start doing some balance Maybe you're going to be doing some balance treatments, and maybe you're going to be doing some strengthening treatments. Whatever the patient needs from your evaluation, you're going to set that up with what their goals are and make sure that it meets the Celery Test. So if you look at other people's treatments, you can kind of see if their treatments meet the Celery Test or not. So then again, we go back to the patient that wants to get back out in the community, maybe needs some balancing treatments as well as gait training, etc. And then you reflect on what their treatment's getting. If it doesn't meet that Celery Test, you're like, oh my gosh, what are they doing? You're doing seated marches and ambulating 300 feet. Why aren't we doing more things in standing? So if your treatment doesn't meet the Celery Test, it says something obvious about you in that as well. So also with the Celery Test, does the treatment that you're providing, in order to meet the Celery Test, it has to meet the goals of your patient and not what your goals are. So think about what I can do to make the patient better. So are your exercises dynamic enough? Is your dosage specific enough? All these kind of come in and help you make the decision on whether it meets the Celery Test or not. So always keep that in mind, because this is what you want to bring is the outcomes and show your value in home care. You want to get them better. So the only way to get your patients better is to make sure that you're meeting the Celery Test. So if you're a new clinician at home health, learning the setting can sometimes be overwhelming. But it's always good to remember that if you're meeting the Celery Test, then you're going to be successful in the treatment that you do. So I'd love to hear from you. What's your Celery Test? Engage with us on the Facebook page or send us a message on Twitter. Remember that home health can be a rewarding and valuable setting, but it needs you, the motivated clinician, to make it great. Thank you for listening to the Senior Rehab Project. If you've gained from this episode, please consider supporting our work. You can become a Patreon through Patreon, a service that allows people like you to support people like us. You can give as little as $1 a month, or become a game changer at $8.99 a month, where you get some awesome swag like a redefined old mug, and you can access to our monthly meetups. Just go to seniorrehabproject.com and learn more, and find the show notes for this episode. So talk to you soon, and don't forget to stay funky.